So my name's Carlos and I'm the head of customer success here at Rocketspark. And part of my role is looking after and helping our support team, our lovely support team, which if you haven't dealt with before, been a new customer with us, hopefully you will deal with them shortly because they are fantastic and they're here to help. Also, it's around education. We know that if we can help you to do better with your website, then be more successful, then things will work out better as well. So we want to provide this educational content to help with that also. So a little recap of what we're going to do today. So this is our onboarding webinar. So this is designed for people that are only new to Rocketspark, potentially in their first week or so of using the website. And we just want to go through some of the fundamentals. They can trip people up as they're getting used to the software, so it'll be good to go through these key points. Part of that's just going to be navigating the Rocketspark system and how to manage a few things and some of the basic principles of how Rocketspark's set up. One of the main things for me is that you ask questions or comment or engage and do that throughout. We can recap any at the end as well, but if we can do it while it's going, whilst this is a webinar format where it's kind of me presenting, it would be great if there was more engagement so that we can help you. And I guarantee if you've got a question, other people on the webinar will also be thinking the same thing. So feel free to either use the chat or the Q&A section, and I'll keep a monitor of those. It's just me doing that, so you'll see me glance over at things at different times, but I'll just keep an eye on those and answer any questions as we go or make a comment as well. You probably registered for this on the customer webinars page, so you bookmark that. It's a great resource. There is a bunch of recordings on there as well for more detailed content and also for upcoming webinars, so that can be a great place. We'll obviously communicate by email as well for those and on our socials. All right, so let's get started. And what I'll do is I'll just share my screen and then you'll be able to see things. So again, any reaction or just something just to say you can see my screen, I'm pretty sure you will be able to. I've done this a few times, so it should be fine. Just get this set up for myself. Perfect. Okay, so what we're going to start with is just a bit of navigation. Now, I'm sure that because you've logged into the system, you've already probably had a little look around, but I just wanted to go through a couple of things so that if you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure where to find that, you can see it as well. So when you first log in, depending on what stage you left, you'll be either coming to the editor, which looks like this Carlos's Cafe page, or you'll go to the dashboard. So at the top here, you've got this navigation pane with dashboard editor and preview, which is super helpful just to be able to quickly get to where you need to. So on the dashboard, you'll see that we've got our dashboard here, we connect analytics, and we've got our pages and tasks and so on, all here ready for us. It also shows us the domain that's connected to our site. So at the moment, when you first start a trial, you're already defaulted to a Rocketspark domain, just so that you can use the system and go. But once you add your own domain, that will appear here, your primary domain, and then you'll see your website status, whether it's offline or online, here as well. The main part of the dashboard is that we also get this menu on the left, which allows us to navigate through sort of back-end settings. This is not to do with editing the website, but it's important to know that they're here so that you can figure out some of these points. While I say it's not editing your website, it's obviously connected. We've got things like manage pages, blog, store, but it's not about the visual display. So when we go back to editor at the top, we're in the website where we can edit the website, and that dashboard's there, but we also have these two dashes in the top left corner where if we click on those, we get access to that menu as well. A couple of other things. We've got our AI sort of chatbot at the bottom right here if you want to try and ask that a question. I wish it was doing a little bit better. It's still learning our systems, but our team get those as well. And if you want at any time, it'll have an option to send it through to one of our team, but it can be quite helpful. And also at the top here, you've got this part here where you've got what we call your site switcher, which is where if you've got any other websites associated. You can actually click into those, or you can create a new website, which can be quite helpful when you've started a trial and you've given something a go. Maybe use one of our templates. It just means that you can say, actually, I'm going to try this out with another template, or I'd like to just start from scratch, and you can do that through there and then switch between your sites, which is really helpful. All right, one of the first things that I want to go through as far as editing the site and also understanding things is what comes up a lot is people will come in and they'll start editing, which is pretty straightforward, and I'll show you that in more detail. But they'll also see this menu at the top, which is pretty common for a website. And they'll think, okay, great, I'd like to change the name of this to something else, or I want to change this order. And so naturally you hover over menu and you click on it to try and edit it. And you think, oh no, I've gone somewhere else. I'm in the menu page. I click on the icon, we're going to go back to the home page, and you're thinking, well, how do I edit these here, or change their order, or remove them, or anything like that? So what we need to do is we need to come over to those two dashes or to our dashboard page and click on Manage Pages. And I just want to spend a minute here just showing you through a couple of the key features here, because this will formulate the structure of your website. So it's quite important to be able to navigate this. So first things first, we can see all of the pages that are on this site here and the names of those pages. And then we have this line, which is above the line will appear in your menu. So all of these items are currently appearing in our menu, except for our home page. And that's because when we scroll down a bit, you'll see this hide first page from menu, and that's been selected. And that's just quite a common experience on a website where the home page isn't listed, and people will click on the logo to return to the home page. But it's up to you. You can obviously have that. Simply, you can drag this line up and down to change what's in that menu, or drag one of those pages above or below that line, and then that will change what appears in the menu. We only have 8 items available in that menu because of the space and the real estate in that header. But there are some other options. So in this Manage Pages area, we also have Add drop-down menu. And this is really helpful to be able to condense the menu. So we've got our pages, and now it's given us where do we want to add that drop-down. So under our menu page, I'm going to add a drop-down, and I'm going to add the drop-down for our breakfast menu. I'm also going to add one for our lunch menu, and I'm going to add one for our dinner menu. And then I can click Save Changes. And now we've got this blue drop down here that we can see. And if we go back to our editor, what we'll now see is this arrow, and we can now see the drop down for our menus. You'll notice that we've got our breakfast and lunch, but we don't have our dinner menu. So if we head back to our Manage Pages, you'll see that our dinner menu is offline. So we've got this online toggle here, and because that's offline, it's not showing in the drop down. It does catch a few people out because you'll make these pages and by default they'll be offline, and then you'll add them into your menu and go, great, that's awesome. Where's my drop down menu now? It's not working. First thing is just to double check that those pages are online. The other great thing is when you turn those online, if you're on one of our Website Builder Pro or E-commerce Grow and Pro plans, you'll have the option for later. And what that allows you to do is schedule a page of content. So if you're looking at a new product release or something that you're working on, but you don't want it to go live just yet, you'll be able to schedule that page to go live. Saves you sitting there at a specific time, maybe when you've got an email going out, waiting to push that to go live. So we'll set these pages live now, and that will have those in our menu. Also, what you can do here now is add any number of new pages, and then you would navigate through buttons or links through your site to those different pages or those landing pages. I'm just looking at my notes at the same time, making sure that I've covered most of these. Drop down. You'll notice also, sorry, there is one more in here that we've got this, and when you have a drop down is whether the menu or the first page is clickable. And some people just prefer not to have like a menu page that might have generic menu content and then the 3 menu pages. So they'll just want it as a title that can't be clicked. And then it's just clickable on the drop down options. So that just depends on how you're building your content out. And we've been through online, offline. Perfect. So that covers our managed pages, and it's just something that catches people out a little bit. There's a few other things on here that you might want to look at, like all caps as far as what your menu's like. So you can click on that or change that to these different options or as you've entered it. Caps is quite popular just because it makes it look quite uniform and easy to see. All right, so now we're going to move on to our Rocketspark sort of basics. So this is just understanding how things present in Rocketspark, and that will help you when you've got an idea of what you want something to look like, how you can create that or how you need to build that within Rocketspark. So having a look at the site, so this is just a dummy site that I've created, and we've got a bit of content here and it's starting to look okay. But what I want to show you is how Rocketspark layers content. So first things first, how do we add content in here? So when I hover over things in our editor, we can see we've got edit pencils to edit items in context, so we can do that. And then we also have this add stack that sits above and below whatever we're hovering over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a stack, and a stack of content is effectively a block of content that sits above another block of content. And within that stack is what I want to talk about. So how we layer things within that stack. I'll come back to our preset stacks shortly because it's just a bit harder to show you this layering with that. And we're going to go to blank. So you have this option to just build out your stack however you want or use a preset option. So under blank stacks, we've got what we call column layouts. So you can see there's a bunch of different column layouts here that we can choose from. So I'm going to choose a 2-column layout just so I can show you this layering correctly. So now what we have is a stack of content with 2 columns in it. The first thing I want to show you is that we have 3 layers, and the first layer is what we call our stack background. So when I go through, when I hover over the stack, on the right hand side, I can see this menu that appears, and there's this color wheel with edit design. So when I click on that edit design, we see all of our settings for this particular stack. And so I can click on stack background, and I can choose to have a color, an image, or a video, and the video will be through a YouTube or Vimeo link. So let's have a look. If I change that color to yellow, which is one of my brand colors, that background becomes yellow. I can look through and add a picture like what you see here, and these are just some AI generated pictures. Or I could have a video that's auto playing in the background, which we'll get to as well. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to use a background color so that it's really clear what is happening here. So if I click save on that, you can now see that our first layer, our background, is yellow. And that's going to help when you start looking at layouts like this one here, where you can see, okay, so how do I get this yellow but then have this separate content? The next layer in our stack is what we call our column layer. So that's where we've got these 2 columns. We might have 1, 3, 6, whatever it might be. And what we can have is we can have a background for this column too. So when we go back to our edit design for this stack, we can see the next one down is column settings. And then each column, as you see, as we click, we can now edit the background for that column. And that's going to sit above our stack background. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a background color as well, just because it makes it a little bit easier to see. I'm going to do that for our first stack, and for our second stack, I'm going to use a different color. And there's a purpose for this because it'll hopefully show you something shortly. We've got a bunch of other options here as well, which we will go through, which is, sorry, excuse me, whether we want to use a background color or we can choose a background image. So we can put an image there as well. And we also have like borders and a corner radius. Corner radius is quite popular. It kind of gives you that pill effect, or you might want to create an archway, which you can do by doing just the top corners. So let's do the top left and top right. And so we can kind of see that, but this will become more evident shortly. So now what we've got is we've got our stack background, which is our yellow color. And now we've got our column background, which sits above that, which we've got in 2 columns. Our third and final layer is now our block content. So this is blocks of content that sit within our stack and column confines. And so what we can do is we can click on add block, and we've got a whole bunch of options of how we can add content. For now, I'm going to use text, and I'll show you shortly what these other options look like as we go through. So now when I add text, I can simply add, a heading here, and then I can add text below it. which is pretty easy. And you're probably going straight away, I can't see that, which I totally understand. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm actually going to use the auto write function just to save me thinking and writing. That's using our Flint AI. We've got a webinar recording on that on our customer webinars page if you want to check it out. So now you think, okay, well, we can see this text, but we can't see this text. And we're going to get to that in a moment. And effectively, it's because our default color for our text is this dark gray color, but that's actually the same color as the background that we've used on this side. So what I'll do on here is I'll actually change this. Actually, I'll just add a block below it, just to show you that we can add a picture in here, for instance, and we can see that that's now the content on top of the other content. I'm just going to make it a bit smaller so it's easier to see. And so hopefully that's visually showing you a bit clearer, those three layers. And then as we look at this, we can see that we've got a white background in this one with a picture on top of it. We've got a 2-column layout here with a yellow stack background and then a picture and text. And then we can see we've got 3 columns and so on and so forth. I'm going to show you a couple more examples of that shortly, but I just wanted to now go through what's probably your biggest question now is why was that text wrong? I'm going to go through our site-wide and our stack-specific settings, because now when you go, okay, I can make what I'm trying to visualize. It's now when you get tripped up on things like these colors that you want to know exactly where to be able to go to and how to fix that. And hopefully this is the right order for you and makes sense. So what I want to now show you through is our change design area. So in the top left corner, we've got change design. And generally, this will actually be one of the first places you come to when you're editing your site. And it may seem odd that I didn't come here first, but I think it's important to be able to understand how to navigate and that fundamental of how the Rocketspark system works and how you design on it so that this makes a little bit more sense. So in our change design menu, we've got a whole bunch. We've got our brand where we can add our logo in here, or we could use a text logo, which is just writing text. We can set the height of that, and a really key one is we can set our brand colors. So any template you use, when you come and change these brand colors, it means that you're going to change all of those colors throughout your entire site. And it just makes things really quick and easy to be able to adjust things quickly. You might even say that I'm just I don't find the shade quite right when it's on a website. You know, it might have looked good on print. So then you can come in here and you can just edit this ever so slightly, and you'll see that the background of my color is starting to change. And then you can save that, and obviously that will change throughout your whole site. So that's our brand area. The next thing down we've got is our header and menu. And under header and menu, we've got probably one of the key things is our header layout, which allows us to change where our logo sits and where our menu items sit. It even allows us to have the burger menu instead of actually displaying that. So if you're looking for quite a clean look, that's the way to go. Just note that you want to make sure it's really easy to see. So whatever colors you're using, it contrasts. Otherwise, people may miss that completely. You also get to choose your header width. So you'll notice on this one that my header isn't taking up the full width of the page, but I can make that full width. And it just means that it's quite a modern look that your header is actually, if you're on a large screen size, it's actually taking up that full width of the header. It's quite an older style where it had a fixed width just so that it could accommodate smaller screens, but if you're on a bigger one, it wouldn't actually work. Ours will adjust to the size of your screen, so full width can be quite a good option there as well. There's a bit of spacing control here as well. And then you've got some other features like our announcement bar and our header button. So these are all sort of feature related. We can see our contact us button here. It's not one of our menu items. It's a button that can take you to any page or any link you want. Really powerful from a call to action perspective. Every website should have some sort of purpose or goal. Generally, it will be getting form submissions or inquiries or phone calls or sales, whatever it might be. So whatever that is, you want to have easy and quick ways for people to complete that call to action. So in my case, I want them to contact us. So I'm taken to a contact us page and I'm making that a button so that people can see that clearly and make sure that they know where to go. All right, so now the one that was in question is headings and paragraphs. So we get to provide a default font for our main heading styles and paragraph style, also the color and the size. And so you can see by default that our color setup was yellow and white with dark text. So our backgrounds are either white or yellow, and then this dark gray text fits that really well. The issue is that that doesn't work when we've got a dark background. And I don't know if we've got, oh, there we go. So we've got a dark background here, and you can see we've got yellow text. So the question here is that people will come through to this area and say, great, I can see as I hover over this that the blue appears on the right-hand side, and it says this text is an H1 heading. And I can come in here and I can say, great, I want to make that yellow. But hold on, now my other H1 headings are changing to yellow too. And so it's really important that from a site-wide design perspective, that you have what's going to be across your site the most and not try and accommodate for everything. So in our case, we're actually going to leave this in the dark sort of charcoal color. And I will show you in a moment how to change those specific settings within a stack. It is important to have a look at your mobile sizes as well. And when you check mobile, so that's how you do that. You can just toggle through those and you'll see that across the site. And let's have a look. We've also got our site-wide design settings for buttons. So this will, if we've got some, formulate the default style for all of our buttons. And you can have a look through here and see how they change. Even when you hover over these, it shows you how they will work for a customer viewing it. And then we've got social media icons, which I won't necessarily go through in detail here. It's straightforward, but it is important to look at our forms sometimes, just so you know that these settings are here and about how our forms will present, because again, having forms is a great way for people to be able to get in touch with you. Good call to action, great way to have success on your website. And the other one is our footer. So sometimes this catches people out. You can display your menu, so this top menu in your footer if you want, by clicking on that, and you'll see that it's appeared down here. We're going to need to change the color to actually show those. But the main one is that we've got our copyright footer here. So we've got our standard copyright information here, but you can add more content in here if you wish, or links to other things as well. So that takes us through what we call change design, which is our site-wide settings, if you can remember it that way. But what we want to have a look at now is why this text is not the right color. So on the right-hand side, when we hover over the stack, we've got that edit design, and this is what we call our stack-specific design settings. And this is how we can override the overall site-wide settings just for this stack. And so let's have a look. We've been through stack and column settings. So let's go through to our headings and paragraphs. As I hover over this, you can see that's blue. Now we can change it to yellow. It is for this whole stack, remember, so it is changing both of those, but it won't change. So as I change all of these through to yellow, it won't change any other stack because this one is the only one that we're editing. So yeah, I guess I've probably emphasized this enough, but site-wide settings, get those set up early on if you can. Use your brand colors. So as you saw when I was clicking on this color wheel, I'm using the brand colors where possible, because if I ever change my mind, I don't have to come through to every stack or every piece of content and change it. All I need to do is go to my brand colors and update that brand color, which is really powerful. So site-wide settings, stack-specific settings, that's how you're going to get that contrasting look. And if we kind of go through here, this is how we've got it. Site-wide settings have been applied here. Stack-specific settings have been applied here, and also here, because there's an example with white. Cool, so hopefully that makes sense. I said there's not any questions, but if there are, please let me know. And I'll just make sure I've covered everything I wanted to in that section. Yeah, so just to recap, 3 layers of content. You don't have to use them all. So for instance, we can have a stack background, which is yellow, and then we can have a picture block of content and a text block of content with no column backgrounds. So it's up to you how you use those layers, or how you build that site out, or how you replicate a look that you're trying to achieve. All right, so now what I'm going to go through is some different ways to add content. So I'm just going to go to one of these blank pages and show you some of those blocks of content and just a couple of things that you might want to look at, or you might think, okay, how has that been achieved? Again, come through to support@rocketspark.com if you're looking to try and achieve any particular look. Take a screenshot, send us a link to a page. We'll help you to understand what you can do on Rocketspark or how you might be able to achieve that look. So first thing I'm going to show you is we're going to add a stack. When you've got no stacks, you get this option. Otherwise, it will be that blue stack. And we've got things like our preset stack. So we can scroll through those, have a look. Those are popular ones, but we might want to use sliders, which are really great for testimonials or like an image gallery. Services, which gives you more, 3 options or options so that people can choose from services, which is straightforward. Top of page. So that's really easy there. But what I'm just going to use again is just some blank stacks so that we can just see how this is formulating. So the first thing I wanted to show you is probably something that catches a few people out, or they think that there's something that should be able to be done within the system, but it's about how you create what we call stack transitions. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a piece of content. I'm going to use our auto write tool. It's already got my style and tone of voice in here, so that's nice and easy. Cool. Now I'm going to add another stack below this. It's going to be blank as well, and this might have an image in it. So I'll just grab one of my AI images, something like that. I want this to have a stack background color of yellow, so I want that layering, and we've got this. But what you might find is you might say, well, this is, it's very blocky. It's just like a square block or a rectangle block on top of a rectangle block, and it's becoming, it's quite challenging from a visual perspective. I want it to look a little bit smoother than that. So there's a couple of ways you can achieve it. You'll need to make an image. So using like an image editor or image creator, or potentially downloading something online. Canva is a great option. But to show you an example, I'm going to add a stack in between these two. And then I'm going to add a stack background. And I'm going to find one from my site, one that I've created already. So what I've got here is an image which has white at the top, or it's actually transparent at the top, and yellow at the bottom, and I've created a wavy line between the two to create an interesting transition between the stack with the text content and the stack with the image. And so that just makes that a little bit more interesting. And I've seen some quite interesting ways to do this. I actually did one for a school recently, locally, that I was helping out, and it won't be the right color, but just to give you an idea, have I got this? Sorry, it won't be a moment. Just grab this for you. It is. And this was like an outline of the mountains that the school is beside. And so obviously that's not in yellow, but it made something a bit more meaningful for them, that transition between the two. So that's stack transitions. The other thing that you can do with that is you can actually add it to, say, an image itself. So let's say we have a blank stack, and I'm going to add a hero image as a background. So stack background image, and I'll just load up an image here. If I can, sorry, I'm just leaning forward so I can see this myself. Perfect. So I've got this image here. It's going to be my hero image at the top of the page. And that's all loading now. I'm just going to drag this yellow one underneath so that it sort of looks right. And we'll get into a little bit of this, but width and spacing, it's very narrow. It's a background image, so I just want to give it some height here. I can even change this manually. So there's our image. When we look at our preview mode, so that we remove that stack, we've got this hero image, and then we've got another stack of content with an image below it. We might even say we want this text to be up here, so we're going to drag that there. So there's our look, and we're like, okay, That's okay, but again, I want it to be a little bit softer than this harsh line between the two. Now, if I added that stack in between with the wavy line, the issue is if it was white at the top or transparent at the top, it's only going to show the background of that stack. It's not going to cover this image. And so what we need to do is using a tool like Canva or any other online photo or image editor, is we need to take this image and then we would add that wavy line to the bottom of that image. And I've got an example of that, of course. So I'll add that in now. And when I click save, once I get this right, cool. So now what we can see is that there's the image, and I obviously need to give it a little bit more height, but now that transition is there, but it's overlapping the image, and it just gives you that visual that's a little bit more interesting and a bit different to that straight line. So that's how you would achieve it. This wavy yellow line is actually part of the image I've uploaded. And so that would come in there. So now what I want to show you is to do with backgrounds again, is what we call parallax backgrounds. And so what that means is we've looked at a solid color as our background. We've seen an image, there's videos as well. But if we come through to our stack background, I'm going to change this to an image. And the image I've got it's actually the Rocketspark logo, but it's kind of stylized in my yellow color. So you can see it there. This is the dark color behind the text, and it just makes that a little bit more interesting than, I'm going to remove this to make it a bit clearer. Just makes it a little bit more interesting than the block color. But it's also very static. So what we can actually do is when we click on our edit design, go back to our stack background, we can see that we've got this vertical position. And as you saw me before, I changed that to bottom so that it had the bottom of the image always present, and you can do top and middle. But the other one you have is parallax scrolling. So when we save that, what you'll see now is, and I'll do it on preview so it's easier to see, but as I scroll, that image actually is fixed and the content scrolls over top of that. And that can just be a really interesting way to give the website a bit of life. So I'm going to add a stack below here as well. And then we can see that we've got this content here. But what I want to show you now is that you might say, well, I've got this here and I can add more content below it. So I'm going to add some more text. I'll remove the heading and just auto write that. So I'm making it taller and so on, which is great. And you can see that scrolling across there. But if you needed to make a stack with more than one column, so let's say we're going to do a 2-column stack here, and on the left column we're going to have an image, and it might be one of my coffees, and on the right hand side we're going to have some text. So let's do just some auto writing here. So now we're saying, okay, well, we've got this here and it's parallax behind that, but I'd like to have it on this background, even though it's 2 columns. And what's great with parallax is when you add the exact same image as the background, once this loads, and make that parallax as well, it actually joins those 2 images together. And you'll see now that that parallax image is actually going between those 2 stacks. And what's really cool is that it actually applies to the whole page. So if I now add a stack between those 2, we can see that that stack misses out because I haven't added it there, but that parallax image actually appears behind the other 2. And you can have a bit of fun with that. So again, I was working with a school and I created an image for them that was a little bit more fun, which I'll load now, to do with schooling, I guess. And so this has got sort of letters and the pi symbol and so on. And so again, we can do that on both of these. It's now going to apply across the whole page, and we can see that interesting transition as we scroll. So you can have a bit of fun. The only thing I would recommend here is to try to make those backgrounds not too busy. And that applies to images, even if you're not using parallax, because if that's too busy, it's going to be very hard to read the content in front of it. And that's where you might use that column background as that middle layer to make that text a bit easier to see. But just keep that in mind, that actually simple backgrounds that have that parallax actually work a lot better. So let's continue to have a look at some other ways we can now add content. So let's use this stack. I'm going to use the yellow background just so it's easy to see. But what I wanted to show you an example of here, I'm going to change this by using those to a 2-column, is I'm going to put a picture of myself here that I took the other day. Hopefully I've still got that. Yes. So here it is of me just in the hallway of Rocketspark. I'm going to now add some text. I'm going to say, introducing Carlos. Cool. And then I'm also going to just auto write something here. Perfect. So now I've got this and it's intro me. It's on that background. That's quite interesting. But a great way to maybe have some fun with it is to edit this image. So if you click on the edit pencil on the image, we can actually adjust the size of this image. So we can do that and it will crop. And then we've got these 2 arrows in the corner, which will now retain the aspect ratio of that image. And so we can get that more in line with maybe how we want it to look. And then we also have these shapes or corners. So we can apply a shape. So we might want to do a archway or an oval or something along those lines, or we might just want to do corners. And again, we can control them individually. So it could be, let's do sort of, sorry, I don't know why that's overlapping, but get there. I quite often like seeing where 3 corners are curved and one's not. I probably need to go quite a bit more than that though, just to get the true effect. So I'm just going to drag those around pretty close to where we want. And so now I've got something a little bit more interesting. You can see that that's the stack starting to come to life a little bit. The other thing to keep in mind is that you can go a bit further, right? So we can now replace this image. And what I did is I actually just use a Mac, so you can literally right click on an image and remove the background. So I'm going to replace that image with a version of it where the background's been deleted. And so now we've got something that's quite different to what we had before. It's really kind of showcasing me in that image. And if I now also change that background to be that Rocketspark logo-esque one that I've made, and I might even change it to parallax just to make it a little bit interesting, we can now see that that stack is quite a lot more interesting than what it was before, and it kind of stands out a little bit. You might say that this text is a little bit hard to read, so you might say, well, okay, let's put a column background, our second layer on here. So we'll jump into our settings, column settings. We're going to choose a column background layout for column 2. And let's say we want it to be white. So there's that. But all of a sudden, as you probably agree, that's quite harsh and it's lost some of that look and feel. So another thing you can do, and again, this is using tools like Canva, an online editing tool, or searching to download, is you can have a colored image that is transparent. So I've got an image, so I'm going to change this column background image. I have a transparent, if I get the right one, a transparent image that's a color. And so this is white, but with like, I think it's 70% opacity on it. And so now what you can see is that that's now slightly see-through and it's not as harsh as what it was before. And I can actually see that parallax moving between it. So it's actually a little bit more subtle and easy, but it's far clearer to see the text. And we can even then do what we were talking about earlier, add some corner radius. Oops, sorry, not to the first one, but the second one, just to maybe soften those corners up a little bit and just make that seem a little bit more interesting. So I know that I've kind of pushed through that quite quickly, but I wanted to show you some of these things so that you know that it is possible and that you can work through it, or contact us and say, hey, I watched the webinar, or I'm trying to do something. How can I possibly achieve this look that I'm going for, or get these corners? We do have a guide around column backgrounds, which has a downloadable or a couple of downloadable transparent background colors that you can use, but obviously you'll want to get those colors along with your brand. So keep that in mind. And so now what I want to do is I just want to show you through a list of some of these block content, so you can just see them being used really quickly, because I really would hope to finish this in the next few minutes and see if there's any questions, and also know that we don't want to take too long. So we've been through text, but just as a reminder, when you set up your website, you should be taken through the Flint process where you fill out the survey with your tone of voice. I can't stress it enough. It's so important to sort of put some time and effort into that. If you need to, you can come up to the lightning bolt and click on the settings cog and update that. But as you have seen with mine, I can now put this in here and I can just auto write. What's great about that, and I'll show you an example, is say if I've got 3 columns and I'm going to add a text block, and I'm going to call this one coffee, maybe beans, because it's a cafe, and then I'll add another one here which might be pastries. So this is just to show you how the AI works, is that when we want to auto write content or add content, it is actually reading the heading above, and it's even reading the content above and below to get an idea of what's on this page. And it's going, the magic of coffee beans at Carlos's Cafe, these tiny powerhouses, unsung heroes and so on. And so it's taken into context what's around it to formulate what it should write. It's not just writing at random based on your tone of voice. It's actually writing this content. When it comes to pastries, Carlos's Cafe serves up a delightful ensemble of baking delights. So it's fitting my tone of voice. But what's great is I can even come to this next one, and again, a little bit scary doing this test live, but I'm going to just auto write the heading, and specialty sips is what it's chosen. And so I'm guessing that it's saying that we've got some other drinks or items. Frothy cappuccino, chai latte, and it's going into some other options as well. So definitely try and use that. It might seem a little bit daunting, and you may not keep all of this text, but at least you can get content on your site and then start editing that content. So let's check out what's next. We've been through an image, a picture, which I think was pretty clear. So you can change those corners, you can edit everything, update the size and shape of it, which is great. And you can even do the position, so it can be left, centered, or right, depending on what you've used. H1 heading you don't really need to use unless you don't want to worry about anything else, but you can just use text and put in an H1, but it's there if you need it. Buttons we haven't talked about, so you can add a button, contact us, because that's my call to action. I'm going to center that text. I'm going to choose a page for it to go to, so the contact us page, and I'm going to hit save. Now this is using our default button styling, as we remember, so we can come over here, go to our buttons, and we can say, actually, I'd like this to be in this way, and that way when I hover over it, it actually changes color, and that. So you can choose how that works out for you. Grid galleries. So now we've looked at pictures, and there's a good webinar. I say good, even though I did it seems a bit up myself, but there's a webinar that I did on pictures and how to use them in Rocketspark, because there is a bunch of different ways. We've seen stack backgrounds, column backgrounds, picture blocks, and now the grid gallery. So I would definitely watch that if you'd like to see this more, but effectively this allows you to add a bunch of images all together. You can still only have to have one column, and you'll be able to see all of those images as they're loading now. And then you get a bunch of specific settings around like the shape of those images, depending on what you've loaded. It is important to try and load images with all the same ratio. You also can adjust the gap between those columns depending on how you want it to look, and even the number of columns for that. Really important to check your mobile setting here about how many columns you want, especially if you've got an odd number of images. If you only had 5, 2 columns is going to look a bit weird, and so on. The other thing that's great about Grid Gallery is that once you're editing the Grid Gallery, you can edit each individual image. And we talked about some text stuff, but you can add text on top of these images without having to do other content. So that can be really helpful. And there's a bunch of different style settings for text and how you might want to do that. So definitely good if you've got services or products and you're trying to showcase those as well. And one thing I really like is when you edit each of these images, you've got this enlarged to full picture and pop up. And that's just really powerful. And now I'm going to have to do it on a couple of these to show you, but really powerful if you're showcasing images. So it could be images for accommodation or some of your products, because it means that when somebody visits your site, they can see that image, they get the hand, they can click on it, and they're going to get the full high resolution image of that and be able to scroll through all of them. The other great thing too is that you can have that sort of text on each one, which might explain what it is. But when you do the pop-up, you also get pop-up text. Sorry, paragraph. And so once you do that, it allows you to add like deeper descriptions of those images or the service that you might be providing. And you can write a lot more here as well. So that can be quite powerful as well. So that's Grid Gallery in a really quick nutshell. Again, watch that webinar. Email form, I talked about this before. All of the beautiful websites, great, but if you don't have a call to action or your goal for your website, then that can be challenging. So you've got forms, you can create a new form, add that, you can see it here. Remember, we went to change design. It had some of those form settings. So whether that's the field background, so for instance, we can increase that opacity and get that color right. We might want to use our yellow color, for instance. Completely up to you, but get your forms in here. Make sure that people can get in touch with you in the way they want to. Have your email address in there, have a form, have your phone number, all great ways to be able to get people to get in touch. Video, so again, showcasing a product, service, whatever it might be that you have your website for. Add in a video. This will need a link for YouTube or Vimeo. Simply grab the link, place it in here, and that video will appear here, and it will adjust to mobile as well for you. So really simple to be able to get people to look at content that you need. Map's quite cool. You can put a street address here, and it will put the Google Map location for that street address. This will also adjust to mobile properly for you. So really nice and easy to be able to showcase a location. Really good for like a contact us page. So for instance, quite common, you'd have a 2-column, and I'll just drag this down into there. So you'd have a 2-column stack, and then this one would be contact maybe, and then you'd put in here, address, etc., etc. It might be then phone. And so that's quite a common way, but then that map's really easy to load. File upload, if you've got any PDF documents, forms, things that you want, even images that people can download, you just click on that file upload. It's going to pop up. You probably can't see it on yours, but pop up an option to choose the file. So I've added an image here, and you'll see that it's now saying click here to download. We can edit that and say, image download. If I get that right, and that's changed. It will show the image. So there's the image that I did. It'll show the file type here. If you don't want the file type, you need to have a button style that is compact, I think. Yep. So when we do that, it's now only showing whatever your title is. So just good to know that if you're worried about that, then you can change that as well. Accordions, love accordions. It's a great way to get a lot of content on your site without having people to have to scroll and scroll and scroll. Probably most commonly used for things like frequently asked questions, but it can be used for a bunch of things, menus and the likes as well. Once you've added that, literally click on the edit pencil. You can change this. It could be lunch menu in my case, and then you might list out eggs, whatever it might be, and prices. You can have a table here as well, which you could have $50, $5. So you can add whatever you want there, really simple. And it just means that you've got that content for people to be able to look at it and expand. So again, frequently asked questions is probably the most common use for that. I don't have a shop, so I can't put products there. You have a code block if you're using any third-party tools. That could be a third-party form tool system. There's a business called ElfSite, which has plugins for websites. So that could be linking through your Google reviews or a calendar or something like that. And that's a good example. If you've got like a Google Calendar, you can embed that into your website. So you can use a code block, take the code that's been given to you and paste it in there, and then that will appear on your site, which makes life really easy. So I think I've just went a little bit more than I wanted to, but I'm just going to quickly double check that I've covered all of those things. And I think I have. The only other things I wanted to mention is that, and I've said it before, but contact our support team. They're here to help you navigate our tool and get the most from it. And we'll also guide you where we can. Sometimes there's third-party tools or external things you'll need help with. We'll try and help. Definitely things like domains and getting set up for your domain and your emails, we can help with and support you, but also getting your website doing the right stuff. Again, check out our customer webinars page. There's a lot of great content on there and things that will help you to see what you can achieve and do and hopefully improve your website and the success of your website. And yeah, you can follow us on social media as well at Rocketspark on Instagram and Facebook, which is a great way, but also make sure you're getting the emails from us. Our monthly newsletter usually has most things in it, but we also send out communication if we have missed something in our monthly newsletter as well. If there are any questions, I'll hang around for a couple of minutes, so please let me know. If not, it was great having you here. Please join us again on another educational webinar soon, and we look forward to hearing you through the support team. Have a great day, and I'll keep an eye out on those questions. Otherwise, I'll end the call shortly.